The humidifier contains industrial poison. 6 months of breathing death. Russell's face drains. His business partner was here this morning, alone with Lily. He knew she was recovering. He added more poison. The 12-year-old is dying again. Before we dive in, comment where you're watching from and subscribe. Riza Coleman stood at the iron gates of the Hartwell estate, her cleaning supplies rattling in the canvas bag slung over her shoulder. The mansion loomed ahead like something from a magazine she'd never be able to afford. All glass and sharp angles, cold and expensive. She'd been hired through an agency that morning, told only that the family needed immediate help and that discretion was essential. The pay was triple her usual rate, which meant something was very wrong inside those pristine walls. She pressed the intercom button, and a woman's clipped voice answered. "You're the new maid?" "Yes, ma'am." "Riza Coleman. Come to the side entrance." The gates buzzed open, and Riza walked up the long driveway, her worn sneakers crunching on perfect gravel. When she reached the side door, a thin woman in her 50s with severe gray hair and an even more severe expression was waiting. "I'm Mrs. Chen, the house manager. You're late." Riza checked her watch. "I'm 3 minutes early." Mrs. Chen's expression didn't change. "In this house, early means 15 minutes before your shift. Follow me and don't touch anything you're not explicitly told to clean." The interior was exactly what Riza expected. Marble floors that probably cost more than her entire apartment building. Modern art that looked like someone had thrown paint at a canvas and called it genius. And a silence so complete it felt oppressive. "Where is everyone?" Riza asked. Mrs. Chen shot her a warning look. "Mr. Hartwell is in his study. You'll meet him later. Right now I need you upstairs. There's a room that requires constant attention." They climbed a curved staircase that belonged in a palace, and Riza noticed something strange. The house was spotless, professionally maintained, yet Mrs. Chen was leading her to a room that apparently needed constant cleaning. When they reached the second floor, the atmosphere changed. The hallway was darker here, quieter, and there was a smell Riza recognized immediately from her years working night shifts at County General before she lost that job. Sickness, medicine, the distinct scent of someone fighting to stay alive. Mrs. Chen stopped at a door and turned to face Riza with an expression that was almost human. "What I'm about to show you doesn't leave this house. You don't talk about it to anyone. Not your friends, not your family, not even the other staff. Do you understand?" Riza nodded slowly, her heartbeat picking up. "Inside this room is Lily Hartwell, Mr. Hartwell's daughter. She's 12 years old and she's dying. The doctors have given her 10 days, maybe less. Your job is to keep her room clean, change her bedding twice daily, and make sure she's comfortable. You don't ask questions. You don't offer opinions. You clean, and you leave. Understood?" "What's wrong with her?" Riza asked before she could stop herself. Mrs. Chen's face hardened again. "That's exactly the kind of question you don't ask. Can you follow instructions, or do I need to call the agency for someone else?" Riza swallowed her curiosity. "I can follow instructions." "Good." Mrs. Chen opened the door and Riza's breath caught in her throat. The room was huge, probably the size of Riza's entire apartment, but it had been transformed into a medical facility. There were monitors beeping softly, an IV stand, oxygen equipment, and in the center of it all, a hospital bed where a small figure lay perfectly still. Lily Hartwell was tiny, almost doll-like, with pale skin that seemed translucent and dark hair spread across white pillows. Her eyes were closed, and for a terrifying moment, Riza thought she was already gone. Then the girl's chest rose in a shallow breath, and Riza released the air she'd been holding. "She looks peaceful," Riza whispered. "She's sedated most of the time," Mrs. Chen replied. "The pain is too much otherwise. Start with the bathroom. I want it spotless. Medical waste goes in the red bags. Use gloves for everything." Riza nodded and got to work, but her mind was racing. She'd seen sick kids before during her brief time as a nursing assistant, before the hospital downsized, and she'd been forced back into cleaning jobs to make rent. But something about this felt wrong. The equipment was top of the line, the kind of setup that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, Yet the girl was dying anyway. As she cleaned, Riza couldn't help but observe. The bathroom counter was covered with medication bottles, so many that she couldn't read all the labels. There were supplements, antibiotics, pain medications, anti-nausea drugs, and several bottles with names she didn't recognize. The sheer volume was staggering. In the bedroom, she worked quietly, aware of Mrs. Chen watching her every move. But Riza had developed a skill over years of being invisible in rich people's homes. She could clean and observe simultaneously, and she was very good at seeing things others missed. Like the fact that Lily's skin had a slightly yellow tint. Like the way her breathing was labored even in sleep. Like the strange rash on her arms that looked almost like a burn pattern. And like the odd smell coming from the humidifier in the corner. Something sweet and chemical that didn't belong. "You're staring," Mrs. Chen said sharply. "I'm observing the room layout to be efficient tomorrow," Riza replied smoothly. "Good save. You're done here. Come back tomorrow at 6 a.m. sharp." As Riza left the estate, her mind wouldn't stop working. She'd seen something in that room, multiple somethings, that didn't add up. But she needed this job. Needed the money desperately. Her brother's medical bills wouldn't pay themselves, and she'd already borrowed from people she shouldn't have. So she'd come back tomorrow, and she'd keep her mouth shut. Probably. That evening, Russell Hartwell sat in his study surrounded by medical files he could no longer bear to read. His daughter was dying, and the best doctors in the country couldn't tell him why. It had started 6 months ago with fatigue and headaches. Then came the nausea, the weight loss, the pain that made his little girl scream in the middle of the night. They'd run every test imaginable, scanned her brain, her organs, her bones, tested her blood so many times she'd started crying at the sight of needles, and found nothing conclusive. The current theory was some kind of aggressive autoimmune disorder, but the treatments weren't working. In fact, Lily seemed to get worse with each new medication they tried. Now she had 10 days left, maybe less, and Russell had exhausted every option, every specialist, every experimental treatment, every prayer to a god he'd stopped believing in around day 90 of this nightmare. A knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. "Come in," he said without looking up. Mrs. Chen entered. "The new maid started today. She's efficient and discreet. She asks questions?" "Only one." I shut it down. "Good. Keep her away from me. I don't need another person looking at me with pity in their eyes." Mrs. Chen hesitated. "Sir, perhaps you should eat something." "I'm not hungry. Your daughter needs you strong." Russell finally looked up, and his voice came out harsh. "My daughter needs me to figure out what's killing her, and I'm failing. Eating a sandwich won't change that. Now please, leave me alone." Mrs. Chen withdrew silently, and Russell returned to the files, searching for something. Anything. He'd missed. Riza came back the next morning at exactly 5:45 a.m., and spent 15 minutes in her car reviewing everything she remembered from her nursing assistant training. The symptoms didn't match any single condition she knew, but together, they painted a picture she couldn't quite see clearly. When she entered Lily's room, she found something unexpected. The girl was awake. Riza froze in the doorway, uncertain. She'd been told the child was sedated most of the time, but those eyes staring at her were alert, if tired. "Hello," Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm new. My name is Riza. I know. Mrs. Chen told me we have a new maid. She says you're not supposed to talk to me." "Probably good advice," Riza replied, moving to start her cleaning routine. "But I've never been great at following advice." Lily almost smiled. "Are you afraid of me?" "Why would I be afraid of you?" "Because everyone else is. They look at me like I'm already dead. They whisper when they think I can't hear. Even Daddy can't look at me without crying." Riza stopped and turned to face the girl. "I'm not afraid of you. I'm angry for you." "That's different." Lily's eyes widened slightly. "No one's been angry before. Just sad." "Sad is useless," Riza said, resuming her work. "Anger can be useful if you point it in the right direction." "What are you angry at?" "At whatever's making you sick. At the fact that you're 12 years old and stuck in this room. At the unfairness of it all." "Do you think I'm going to die?" Riza paused, weighing her words carefully. I think you're going to fight. And I think you're stronger than people give you credit for. How do you know that? Because you're awake right now, talking to me, instead of sleeping. Because you're asking real questions, instead of pretending everything's fine. That takes strength. Lily was quiet for a moment. The monitors beeped steadily in the background. Then she said something that made Riz's blood run cold. Sometimes I think the medicine is making me worse. Before Riza could respond, the door opened and Mrs. Chen entered with a nurse Riza hadn't met. The older woman's face was thunderous. What are you doing? I told you not to engage with the patient. I was just cleaning and she spoke to me. I was being polite. The nurse moved to Lily's bedside, checking monitors and adjusting the IV. Time for your morning medication, sweetie. Riza watched as the nurse pulled out a tray loaded with pills and liquids. So many. Too many. She counted at least 15 different medications, and that was just for the morning dose. Lily's face fell. Do I have to? It makes me feel sick. I know, honey, but your doctors say it's important. The nurse started crushing pills into applesauce, mixing liquids, preparing a small pharmacy's worth of medication for a child who weighed maybe 70 pounds. Riza felt that anger building again, but she kept her mouth shut and continued cleaning. She watched Lily swallow the medications, watched the girl's face pale, watched her gag and fight to keep it all down. 15 minutes later, Lily was vomiting into a basin and crying softly while the nurse held her hair back. This is normal, the nurse said calmly. Her system is very sensitive right now. Riza left the room feeling sick herself. Something was very wrong here, and it wasn't just the mysterious illness. That evening, Riza did something she knew was risky. She went to the public library and started researching. She wrote down every medication name she'd seen, every symptom she'd observed, every detail she could remember. Then she started cross-referencing. What she found made her hands shake. Many of the medications Lily was taking had severe interactions with each other. Some combinations were specifically contraindicated, meaning they should never be given together. Others had side effects that perfectly matched Lily's symptoms: nausea, fatigue, liver problems, that yellow tint to her skin. Riza wasn't a doctor. She'd barely finished her nursing assistant certification before life got in the way. But she knew enough to recognize that something catastrophic was happening in that house. And it wasn't just an illness. It was the treatment itself. But who could she tell? If she went to Mrs. Chen, she'd be fired immediately. If she somehow managed to reach Russell Hartwell, why would a desperate father believe a maid over his team of expensive specialists? And if she was wrong, if she caused trouble over nothing, she'd lose the job she desperately needed. Riza went home that night and didn't sleep. She kept seeing Lily's pale face, kept hearing that small voice saying sometimes, I think the medicine is making me worse. By morning, she'd made a decision. She was going to document everything. Every medication, every dose, every reaction. She'd build a case that even a grieving billionaire couldn't ignore. And if it cost her the job, at least she'd tried. The next 3 days followed a brutal routine. Riza arrived early, cleaned Lily's room with meticulous care, and used every moment of privacy to photograph medication labels with her phone, to write down dosage times, to track the girl's symptoms. She also talked to Lily whenever they were alone, learning about the girl's life before the illness, about her mother who died in a car accident 2 years ago, about her father who used to smile and now only looked haunted. Lily was sharp, funny, curious about everything. She asked Riza about her life and actually listened to the answers. She wanted to know about Riza's brother, about why Riza had left nursing, about whether Riza had ever been in love. It broke Riza's heart a little more each day. On the 4th day, Riza finally saw Russell Hartwell in person. She was carrying cleaning supplies down the hallway when a door suddenly opened and a man stormed out, phone pressed to his ear. I don't care what the board thinks, he was saying. Tell them I'll be back when I'm back and not before. He nearly collided with Riza, who stepped back quickly. Mr. Hartwell stopped mid-stride and looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. Who are you? The new maid, sir. Riza Coleman. He was tall, probably 6'2", with dark hair going gray at the temples and eyes that looked like they hadn't seen sleep in months. His expensive suit was rumpled, his tie loosened, and there was a coffee stain on his collar that suggested Mrs. Chen's influence only went so far. "How's my daughter?" The question caught Riza off guard. "She's resting right now. Comfortable." "That's not what I asked." Russell's voice was sharp. "How is she?" Riza met his eyes and made another dangerous decision. "She's struggling, sir. The medications make her very sick." "I know that," he snapped. "The doctors say it's necessary. Her organs are failing. Without the medications, she has days. With them, she might have weeks. Do you understand? We're buying time for a miracle. What if the medications are part of the problem?" The words were out before Riza could stop them. The hallway went deadly silent. Russell stared at her with an expression that shifted from shock to fury. "Excuse me? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything." "No, you shouldn't have. You're a maid. You clean floors and toilets. You don't question medical professionals who've spent decades studying diseases you couldn't begin to understand." His words stung, but Riza stood her ground. "You're right. I'm sorry for overstepping." Russell turned away, then back, his face flushed with anger and something else. Desperation. "Do you have children, Miss Coleman?" "No, sir." "Then you can't possibly understand what it's like to watch your child die slowly, to throw money at the best doctors in the world, and have them tell you there's nothing more they can do. You can't understand what it's like to pray for a miracle while watching your daughter fade away. So unless you have some kind of medical degree hidden in that cleaning supply bag, I suggest you do your job and leave the medical decisions to people who actually know what they're doing." He walked away, leaving Riza standing in the hallway with her heart pounding. She'd just made an enemy of the most powerful man in the state, and she probably had hours before Mrs. Chen fired her. But that evening, something unexpected happened. As Riza was preparing to leave, Mrs. Chen stopped her with an envelope. "Mr. Hartwell wants you to have this." Riza opened it to find $500 in cash and a note in bold handwriting. "For being honest, even when it was stupid. Keep doing your job." She stared at the note for a long time, trying to understand this complicated, grieving man. Then she went home and worked even harder on her documentation. 2 days later, Lily took a sharp turn for the worse. Riza arrived to find the room filled with doctors, nurses, and medical equipment that hadn't been there before. Russell was standing by the window, stone-faced, while a doctor explained that Lily's liver function had deteriorated overnight. They were increasing her medications and discussing hospital admission. Riza watched the doctor add 3 more drugs to Lily's already overwhelming regimen. She watched them increase dosages of medications that her research suggested were toxic in combination. And she watched Lily grow weaker by the hour. That evening, after everyone else had left and Lily was sleeping fitfully, Riza made a choice that could ruin her life. She went to Russell Hartwell's study and knocked on the door. "Come in," his exhausted voice called. Riza entered to find him exactly as she'd imagined, surrounded by medical files, a glass of whiskey untouched on his desk, staring at a photo of a younger Lily, smiling and healthy. "Mr. Hartwell, I need you to listen to me." He looked up, surprised. "Miss Coleman, it's late. I know, and I know you think I'm just a maid who should mind her own business. But I was a nursing assistant once, and I've been researching Lily's medications. Sir, I think she's being poisoned." The word hung in the air like a bomb. Russell's face went pale, then red. "Get out. Please just listen for 5 minutes. I've documented everything. The medication interactions, the side effects, the timing of her deterioration. It matches something called polypharmacy toxicity. It's when too many medications taken together become toxic. Get out of my house right now before I call security." Mr. Hartwell, her symptoms started improving 2 days ago when the nurse accidentally missed her evening dose. Did anyone notice? Did anyone chart that? Russell stood up, towering over her. "You're fired. You're completely fired. You broke confidentiality, you've made wild accusations, and you've crossed every professional boundary. Mrs. Chen will pack your things. Leave immediately." Riza pulled out her phone with shaking hands. "I have photos. I have documentation. I have a list of every medication she's taking, and research showing the interactions. Just look at it. Just please look at it before you throw me out." She placed her phone on his desk and stepped back. Russell stared at the phone as if it were a snake. Then, slowly, he picked it up and started scrolling through Riza's photos and notes. The silence stretched for 3 full minutes while he read. His face went through several expressions: confusion, anger, recognition, horror. "This can't be right," he whispered. "The doctors, they're the best. They're specialists. Sometimes specialists are so focused on their specific area that they don't see the whole picture," Riza said quietly. "Too many cooks in the kitchen, each adding their own ingredient until the whole thing becomes poisonous. Look at this one." She pointed to a medication on the list. "This is for nausea, but its side effect is liver damage. And this one, it's supposed to protect her liver, but it interferes with this medication here, making it toxic. It's a cascade, sir. Each drug causing a problem that another drug is prescribed to fix. But that drug causes another problem. It's killing her slowly." Russell sank back into his chair, still staring at the phone. His hands were trembling. How did no one see this? Because no one was looking at all. The medications together. She has 5 different specialists, each prescribing their own treatments. Does anyone have a master list? Does anyone review all the interactions? In the silence that followed, Riza could hear her heart beating. She'd just accused his medical team of poisoning his daughter, accused them of incompetence at best and negligence at worst. She'd either just saved a child's life or destroyed her own. Russell looked up at her with haunted eyes. "What do you want me to do?" "Tomorrow morning, reduce her medications to only the absolute essentials. Give her body a chance to clear the toxins. Watch what happens. And if you're wrong, if I'm wrong, I'll turn myself into the police for practicing medicine without a license, and you can sue me for everything I don't have. But I'm not wrong, Mr. Hartwell. Deep down, you know I'm not wrong." Russell picked up his phone and dialed. "Dr. Morrison?" "Yes, I know what time it is. I need you at my house in 1 hour with a complete review of Lily's medication interactions." "No, not tomorrow. Now. Because my maid just told me we might be poisoning my daughter, and I think she's right." After he hung up, Russell looked at Riza for a long moment. "If you're wrong about this, I'll destroy you. And if I'm right, then I'll owe you everything." "You can start by not destroying me," Riza said. The meeting with Dr. Morrison went late into the night. Russell called in all 5 of Lily's specialists and had them physically sit in the same room, something that apparently had never happened before. They reviewed every medication, every interaction, every escalation of treatment. It took 3 hours, but eventually even the most resistant doctor had to admit the truth. Lily Hartwell was suffering from severe polypharmacy toxicity. The treatments designed to save her life were destroying it instead. Dr. Morrison looked like he'd aged 10 years in one night. "I don't understand how we missed this. We were all treating individual symptoms without looking at the whole patient. We were so focused on finding the mysterious illness that we created one." "How fast can we reverse this?" Russell demanded. "We need to be careful," Dr. Morrison warned. "We can't just stop everything cold. She's physically dependent on some of these medications now. We need to tape her carefully and support her organs while they recover. If they recover." "If they recover," the doctor acknowledged. "The damage may be permanent, Russell." "Do it," Russell said. "Whatever it takes, do it." Riza was allowed to stay, sitting in the corner like a shadow, watching the doctors create a new treatment protocol. By dawn, they had a plan. Over the next 72 hours, Lily's medication load would be reduced by 80%, keeping only those essential for pain management and supporting her breathing. They would watch, wait, and pray. Riza went home that morning in a daze, uncertain what she'd just done. She'd either saved a child or raised false hope in a desperate father. She'd either be a hero or a villain. There was no middle ground. She slept fitfully and returned to the Hartwell estate that evening, half expecting to find security waiting to escort her out permanently. Instead, Mrs. Chen met her at the door with an expression Riza couldn't read. "Mr. Hartwell wants to see you in Lily's room." Riza climbed the stairs with her heart in her throat. When she entered the medical room, she found Russell sitting beside his daughter's bed, holding her small hand. Lily was asleep, but her breathing seemed easier, less labored. Mr. Hartwell? He looked up and Riza was startled to see tears on his face. She asked for orange juice this afternoon. Real food. She hasn't wanted real food in 3 months. The hope in his voice was so fragile it hurt to hear. That's wonderful, Riza said carefully. Dr. Morrison thinks you might be right. Her color is already better. The yellow tint is fading. If this continues, if she actually recovers, I don't know how to thank you. You could start by never scaring me like that again. Riza attempted a smile. I'm not good at standing up to billionaires. Russell almost laughed. Most people aren't. That's why I need people like you around. People who will tell me the truth even when it's terrifying. People who care more about what's right than what's safe. He stood up and extended his hand. Thank you, Miss Coleman, for being brave enough to risk everything for someone you barely know. Riza shook his hand, feeling the weight of the moment. She's a good kid. She deserves to grow up. They stood there in the quiet room. Two people from completely different worlds, united by hope for a sick child's recovery. The next 2 days were cautiously optimistic. Lily's symptoms slowly improved. She was awake more often, complaining about being bored, which the doctor said was an excellent sign. Her color improved, her appetite returned slightly, and the blood tests started showing better liver function. Riza continued her regular cleaning duties, but now Russell sought her out for updates, asked her opinion, treated her like part of the medical team rather than invisible help. It was strange and wonderful and terrifying. Then on the 3rd day, everything fell apart. Riza arrived for her shift to find an ambulance outside and a scene of chaos inside. She ran upstairs to find Lily unconscious, not sleeping but truly unresponsive, and the medical team working frantically. What happened? She asked Mrs. Chen, who was standing in the doorway looking stricken. No one knows. She was fine at breakfast, improving, laughing. Then she complained of a headache and collapsed. They think it might be a stroke or brain bleeding. All the medication changes. Maybe the damage was worse than they thought. Riza pushed into the room, ignoring Mrs. Chen's protests. Russell was standing against the wall looking like a man watching his world end. She was getting better, he said to no one in particular. She was actually getting better. How is this happening? Riza looked at the scene with new eyes. The medical team was following protocol, but something felt wrong. She scanned the room, looking for anything out of place, anything that might explain this sudden collapse. And then she saw it. The humidifier in the corner, the same one that had smelled wrong on her first day, was running. She'd forgotten about it in all the chaos of the medication discoveries. But now, with Lily unconscious for no clear reason, Riza's instincts screamed. She walked to the humidifier and unplugged it. What are you doing? Russell demanded. This smell. Riza opened the water reservoir and immediately recoiled. The chemical scent was overwhelming. What's in this? Dr. Morrison looked over. It's just a humidifier to help with her breathing. We add a respiratory therapy blend. What kind of blend? Riza demanded. The doctor looked uncertain. I don't know exactly. The pharmacy provides it. It's pre-mixed. Riza dumped some of the liquid into a glass and held it up to the light. It was slightly cloudy with an oily residue. This doesn't look like respiratory therapy. This looks like something else entirely. You think the humidifier is the problem? Russell moved closer. How long has this been running? Months, Mrs. Chen said from the doorway. We started it when Lily first got sick. The respiratory therapist said it would help. Riza's mind was racing. If something toxic was being vaporized and breathed in 24 hours a day for months, it would explain everything. The mysterious illness that no test could detect. The progressive organ damage. The symptoms that looked like so many different conditions. Who is this respiratory therapist? Riza asked. I want a name. Dr. Morrison pulled out his phone. I'll call the pharmacy now. They recommended him. He's been managing all the equipment. Russell grabbed the glass from Riza's hand and smelled it carefully. His face went pale. This smells like the cleaning solution we use in the factory. Industrial grade. Why would industrial chemicals be in my daughter's humidifier? That's what we need to find out, Riza said. And we need to find out right now because if I'm right, Every breath she's taken in this room for 6 months has been poisoning her. The revelation hit the room like a physical force. Dr. Morrison was already on his phone demanding answers. Russell was staring at the humidifier with an expression of absolute horror. And Riza was putting pieces together. The illness started when? Russell looked at her. 6 months ago. Almost exactly. Right after her mother's funeral. His face went white. How did you know that? Because someone knew your daughter would be grieving, vulnerable, spending time in her room. Someone knew you'd spend any amount of money to save her. Someone knew that in chaos, no one would question standard medical equipment. Mr. Hartwell, I don't think your daughter got sick. I think someone has been deliberately poisoning her for 6 months and we just stopped them. Russell swayed on his feet and Dr. Morrison caught him. That's impossible. Who would? The words died in his throat. Oh God. Who? Riza asked quietly. Who had access to this room? Who recommended the equipment? Who has been in and out for 6 months while everyone focused on medications and symptoms? Russell's voice came out as a broken whisper. Michael. My business partner. He recommended the respiratory therapist. He made all the equipment arrangements. He's been so supportive, so helpful. Riza felt ice flood her veins. And who benefits if Lily dies? Russell's face went white. I have a partnership agreement. If anything happens to me and Lily, my shares transfer to Michael. He owns the company. Everything. Mrs. Chen gasped from the doorway. Mr. Monroe was here this morning. He brought coffee for the staff and spent time alone in Lily's room. Riza ran to the humidifier and opened the reservoir. Fresh liquid, recently refilled. She looked up at Russell with horror. He knew we'd stopped the me. He knew she was recovering. He added more poison today. Lily was dying now. Clear? Dr. Morrison shouted. And the defibrillator paddles sent an electric shock through Lily's small body. Her back arched off the bed and then fell still. The monitor showed nothing but a flat line screaming death into the room. Russell was on his knees, hands covering his face, unable to watch his daughter die a second time. Riza stood frozen against the wall, her mind racing. They'd been so close to saving her. So close to stopping Michael Monroe. And now this monster was going to win anyway. Again, Dr. Morrison ordered. Charging to 200. Clear. Another shock. Another terrible silence. Then impossibly a beep. Weak and irregular. But there. We have a rhythm, a nurse called out. It's unstable. Get her to the ICU immediately. As they rushed Lily out on the gurney, Russell finally stood, his legs barely holding him. He looked at Riza with eyes that had seen too much death. She's alive, he whispered. Barely, Dr. Morrison said. The next 48 hours are critical. We need to flush the toxins from her system and pray her organs can recover. And we need to know exactly what was in that humidifier. Russell's expression hardened into something dangerous. I know exactly who can tell us that. He pulled out his phone and made a call that would destroy a man's life. Detective Hernandez, this is Russell Hartwell. I need you at Seattle General Hospital immediately. I have evidence that my business partner has been attempting to murder my daughter for the past 6 months. Within 20 minutes, the hospital room was swarming with police. Detective Maria Hernandez, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s, listened to the whole story while technicians collected the humidifier and its contents as evidence. Mr. Hartwell, this is a serious accusation, she said carefully. Michael Monroe is one of the most respected businessmen in the state. I understand that, Russell replied. I've known him for 15 years. I trusted him with my company and my life, and he's been slowly poisoning my 12-year-old daughter because he wants to steal everything I've built. The detective turned to Riza. And you discovered this how? I clean for a living, but I used to work in healthcare, Riza explained. I noticed things that didn't add up. The medications making her worse. The strange smell from the humidifier. The timing of her collapse right after Mr. Monroe visited. I documented everything. She pulled out her phone and showed Detective Hernandez the photos, the medication lists, the timeline she'd built. The detective's eyebrows rose as she scrolled through the evidence. This is remarkably thorough for a housekeeper. I care about that little girl, Riza said simply. and I know what it's like to watch someone you love suffer when the people with power aren't paying attention. Detective Hernandez nodded slowly. We'll need to test the liquid in the humidifier, get warrant for Mr. Monroe's financial records, and interview everyone who had access to the house. In the meantime, I strongly suggest you increase security. If Mr. Monroe realizes we're onto him, he might run. Or he might finish what he started, Russell said darkly. He won't get the chance. I'm hiring private security for Lily's room immediately. And Ms. Coleman, you're not going anywhere. I need you here. Russell, I'm just a maid. You're the woman who saved my daughter's life twice, he corrected. You're staying. The next 3 days were a blur of medical procedures, police interviews, and agonizing waiting. Lily remained unconscious in the ICU, her small body fighting to recover from months of systematic poisoning. Riza barely left the hospital. She slept in a chair beside Lily's bed, talking softly to the unconscious girl, telling her stories, reading books aloud, playing music on her phone. Russell would find her there at all hours, exhausted but determined. You should go home, he'd say. Get real sleep. When she wakes up, she'll want to see a familiar face, Riza would reply. I'm staying. On the second day, Russell brought her coffee and a breakfast sandwich from the good place down the street, not the hospital cafeteria. He sat beside her in the other uncomfortable chair. Why are you doing this? He asked quietly. You don't owe us anything. You could have walked away after I yelled at you, after I called you just a maid. Riza took a sip of the coffee and stared at Lily's pale face. My little brother Marcus got sick when he was 9, she said. Leukemia. We didn't have insurance and my mom was working 3 jobs just to keep us fed. The hospital social worker was this woman named Angela. She fought for us, made sure Marcus got the treatment he needed, helped us navigate all the bureaucratic nightmares. She didn't have to. It wasn't her job. But she cared. Russell listened silently. Marcus survived because someone gave a damn when they didn't have to, Riza continued. Angela taught me that sometimes the people with the least power are the only ones willing to use what little they have to help someone else. So when I saw Lily dying and knew something was wrong, I couldn't just clean the floors and collect my paycheck. I had to try. Even if you fired me. Especially if you fired me. Russell's voice came out rough with emotion. I'm sorry for what I said. For how I treated you. You were desperate and terrified, Riza said. And you were right. I am just a maid. I don't have credentials or degrees. But I know how to pay attention. And sometimes that's enough. You're not just anything, Russell said firmly. You're extraordinary. Before Riza could respond, Lily's monitor beeped differently. They both jumped up as the girl's eyes fluttered open. Daddy? Lily whispered, her voice barely audible. Baby girl. Russell was at her bedside instantly, taking her small hand. I'm here. I'm right here. Lily's eyes moved slowly, taking in the hospital room, the machines, the tubes. Then she found Riza standing on the other side of the bed. Riza, you stayed. Of course I stayed, kiddo. Someone had to make sure your dad didn't drive the nurses crazy. A tiny smile crossed Lily's pale face. Did you catch the bad man? Russell and Riza exchanged glances. How did you know? Lily asked. I heard things, Lily whispered. When I was supposed to be sleeping. Uncle, Michael talking to Daddy about the business. About how it would be better if I wasn't. Her voice cracked. He wanted me gone. Lily's eyes filled with tears. Russell gathered her into his arms as gently as possible. You're safe now. He can't hurt you anymore. Promise. I promise. And Riza's going to make sure I keep that promise. Lily looked at Riza with those gray eyes so much like her father's. You're not going away, are you? Not if you don't want me to, Riza said. Then I want you to stay, Lily said. Please stay. Riza felt tears on her own face. I'm not going anywhere. Dr. Morrison came in then, called by the nurses, and examined Lily thoroughly. Her vital signs were improving. Her liver function was showing signs of recovery. It was cautious, fragile, but it was hope. She's going to make it, the doctor said with visible relief. It'll be a long recovery, but she's going to make it. Russell closed his eyes, and for the first time in 6 months, he let himself believe his daughter might actually survive. That afternoon, Detective Hernandez returned with news. "We arrested Michael Monroe an hour ago," she announced. The lab results came back on the humidifier liquid. It contained aconite, a plant-based poison, along with several industrial solvents. In the concentrations we found, it's lethal with prolonged exposure. Russell's hands clenched into fists. How long would it have taken to kill her? With the amount being vaporized daily, the toxicologist estimates she had maybe a week left, possibly less. Her liver was already in failure. Another few days, and the damage would have been irreversible. "So we stopped him just in time," Riza said quietly. "Barely in time," Detective Hernandez agreed. "Monroe is denying everything, of course. Claims he was just trying to help, that he had no idea the respiratory therapist was using contaminated equipment. But we found some interesting things when we searched his home and office." "Such as?" Russell demanded. "Financial records showing he's been embezzling from your company for 2 years," the detective said. "He's stolen over $8 million. When your wife died and you started focusing all your attention on Lily instead of the business, he saw an opportunity. But he got greedy. He wanted it all. And the partnership agreement meant he only inherits if both you and Lily are gone," Riza said. "Exactly. We think he originally planned to make it look like you'd committed suicide after Lily died. There's a drafted suicide note on his computer, poorly hidden in a deleted folder. We also found correspondence with the fake respiratory therapist who provided the poisoned humidifier solution. The man was actually a former research chemist who lost his license for ethics violations. Monroe paid him $50,000. Russell's voice was ice cold. "I want him to spend the rest of his life in prison. With the evidence we have," Detective Hernandez said, "he'll be lucky if he doesn't get the death penalty. Attempted murder of a child, conspiracy, embezzlement. The prosecutor is already talking about making an example of him." "Good," Russell said. "Let them." Over the following weeks, Lily grew stronger. The toxins slowly cleared from her system. Her color returned. Her appetite came back. She started complaining about being bored in the hospital, which everyone agreed was a wonderful sign. Riza was there every day, bringing books and puzzles and contraband snacks that Dr. Morrison pretended not to notice. She read to Lily, played card games, helped with the physical therapy exercises, and most importantly, made her laugh. Russell watched them together and felt something shift in his chest. This woman who'd come into their lives as hired help had become essential. She'd saved Lily not once, but twice. She'd stood up to him when no one else dared. She'd risked everything for a child she barely knew. And somewhere in the chaos and fear and hope, he'd fallen completely in love with her. The realization terrified him. She was younger, from a completely different world, and probably thought of him as just her employer. A wealthy, arrogant employer who'd been awful to her in the beginning. But every time she smiled at Lily, every time she fought with the nurses to get his daughter better food, every time she fell asleep in that uncomfortable chair because she refused to leave, Russell fell a little harder. One evening, after Lily had drifted off to sleep, Russell found Riza in the hospital cafeteria, staring at a cup of terrible coffee. "Mind if I join you?" he asked. "It's your hospital wing," she replied with a tired smile. "You can do whatever you want." "Not really," he said, sitting down. "If I could do whatever I wanted, I'd go back in time and see what was happening to Lily from the start. I'd never have trusted Michael. I'd have paid attention instead of drowning in work and grief." "You can't blame yourself," Riza said. "He was your friend. He manipulated you." "I almost let my daughter die," Russell said flatly. "If you hadn't shown up, if you hadn't cared enough to look deeper, Lily would be dead in a few days, and I'd never have known it was murder. I'd have thought I'd failed her, that some mysterious disease took her, and Michael would have everything. But I did show up," Riza said, "and Lily's alive, and Michael is in jail awaiting trial. So maybe instead of torturing yourself over what could have happened, you focus on what's going to happen next." "Which is?" Russell asked. "Your daughter is going to go home. She's going to get stronger. She's going to go back to school and have friends and drive you crazy like 12-year-olds do. You're going to rebuild your company and probably work too hard again. And eventually, this nightmare will be a story you tell about the time everything almost went wrong, but didn't. Russell studied her face. What about you? What about your story? Riza shrugged. I'll go back to cleaning houses, I guess. Pay off my brother's medical bills. Keep moving forward. That's it? That's a terrible ending. She smiled. Not everyone gets a fairy tale ending, Mr. Hartwell. Sometimes just surviving is enough. Russell, he said. What? Call me Russell. We've been through enough together. You don't have to Mr. Hartwell me anymore. Okay, Russell, Riza said, testing out his name. Russell took a breath and made a decision. I want to offer you a job. I already have a job. I mean a real job. In my company. I'm restructuring everything after Michael's betrayal. I need people I can trust. People who actually care about doing the right thing instead of just collecting a paycheck. People like you. Riza stared at him. I barely finished high school. I don't know anything about tech or business or whatever your company does. I can teach you the technical stuff, Russell said. But I can't teach integrity. I can't teach courage. I can't teach someone to care about people more than profit. You already have those things. I'm offering you a position as my head of operations ethics and employee wellness. You'd be in charge of making sure the company culture is healthy, that employees are treated well, that we're actually doing good in the world instead of just making money. Riza laughed in disbelief. You want me to be the conscience of a multi-million-dollar company? Billion, actually, Russell corrected. And yes, exactly that. I don't even know what that job would look like day to day. Neither do I, he admitted. We'd figure it out together. But I know you'd be brilliant at it. You'd make sure no one gets lost in the shuffle. You'd pay attention to the people everyone else overlooks. You'd make the company better just by being there. The salary would be $200,000 a year to start. Riza nearly spit out her coffee. That's not funny. I'm not joking. With full benefits, retirement matching, and equity in the company, you'd be a real stakeholder, not just an employee. Why? Riza demanded. Why would you do this? Because I trust you, Russell said simply. Because you saved my daughter. Because you're brilliant and capable, and you deserve a chance to do something meaningful. And because, he hesitated, then continued, because I don't want you to disappear from our lives. Lily needs you. I need you. The cafeteria suddenly felt very quiet. Riza stared at Russell, trying to read his expression. What are you saying? I'm saying that over the past few weeks you've become family, Russell said. I'm saying that when this is all over and Lily comes home, I want you to be there. Not as the maid, not as an employee, as someone who matters, as someone who... He stopped, realizing he was saying too much. Someone who what? Riza pressed. Russell met her eyes. Someone I care about. More than I should. More than is probably appropriate. Someone I can't imagine my life without anymore. The confession hung between them. Riza's heart was racing. Russell Hartwell, billionaire CEO, was sitting in a hospital cafeteria at 9 p.m., telling her he cared about her. It was absurd. It was impossible. It was terrifying. It was also the most honest thing anyone had ever said to her. I don't fit in your world, she said quietly. I don't care about that world anymore, Russell replied. It almost cost me everything. I care about what's real, what matters. And you matter, Riza. You matter so much. Before Riza could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Chen. Lily's asking for both of you. She wants to have a tea party. The moment broke and they both laughed. A tea party at 9 p.m., Riza said. Of course she does. That's my daughter, Russell said with pride. Come on, we shouldn't keep the princess waiting. They headed back to Lily's room together, and Riza felt the weight of everything unsaid between them. She didn't know what was happening or where it was going. But for the first time in her life, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. 3 weeks later, Lily was discharged from the hospital. The media had gotten wind of the attempted murder story, and reporters swarmed the hospital exit, shouting questions. Russell shielded Lily from the cameras while private security cleared a path to the car. But Lily insisted on stopping for just a moment. She looked at the cameras and the reporters and said in a clear voice, "The doctor saved my life." But Riza saw what no one else did. Riza Coleman is my hero." Then she climbed into the car and the security team got them out of there. The clip went viral within hours. Riza's face was suddenly everywhere. Her phone exploded with interview requests, book deal offers, and messages from people around the world calling her a hero. It was overwhelming and uncomfortable, and Riza hated every minute of it. "I just did what anyone should do," she told Russell. "Most people wouldn't have," he replied. "That's what makes you special." Lily's homecoming was quiet and emotional. Mrs. Chen had prepared the house, removing every trace of the medical equipment, replacing it with fresh flowers and Lily's favorite things. The girl walked through her room and started crying. "What's wrong?" Russell asked, immediately concerned. "It's beautiful," Lily sobbed. "It doesn't smell like medicine anymore. It smells like home." Riza pulled her into a hug. "That's because it is home. You're home now." Over the following months, life found a new rhythm. Lily slowly recovered her strength. She started online school, rebuilding her education. She made video calls with friends who'd thought she was dying. She laughed and complained about homework and asked her dad for a puppy at least once a day. Riza took the job Russell offered, though she insisted on starting at a lower salary until she proved she could actually do it. She spent her days learning the business, meeting with employees, identifying problems that management had overlooked. She created anonymous feedback systems. She implemented mental health support. She made sure the janitorial and maintenance staff had the same quality health insurance as the executives. And she was brilliant at it. Employees loved her. The company culture began to shift. People felt heard. Problems got addressed. The business actually became more profitable because workers were happier and more engaged. Russell's board of directors had been skeptical of hiring a housekeeper with no degree for such a high-level position. But within 6 months, even, the most resistant board member admitted she was the best hire the company had made in years. Russell and Riza worked closely together, rebuilding what Michael had nearly destroyed. They spent long hours in meetings, strategy sessions, crisis management. And somewhere in all of that, their relationship deepened. It started with coffee breaks that lasted too long. Conversations that drifted from business to personal. Glances that lingered a few seconds past appropriate. Russell told her about his late wife, about the guilt he carried, about the fear that he'd fail again. Riza told him about her brother, about their childhood in poverty, about the dreams she'd given up. They understood each other in ways that surprised them both. Lily watched them dance around their feelings with the exasperation of a 12-year-old who could see exactly what was happening. "You like her," she told her father bluntly one evening. "Of course I like her," Russell replied. "She's wonderful." "No, Daddy. You like her. You look at her the way you used to look at Mom in the old photos." Russell sighed. "Is that a problem? Would it bother you?" Lily rolled her eyes. "It would bother me if you didn't do something about it. She makes you smile. You haven't really smiled in forever. And she makes me smile too. So stop being scared and just tell her." "When did you get so wise?" "I almost died," Lily said simply. "It gives you perspective." So Russell made a plan. 3 months after Lily came home, he arranged a company charity gala. It was officially to raise money for children's hospitals and medical research. Unofficially, it was his grand gesture. Riza almost didn't go. "I don't have a dress for something like that," she protested. "I arranged that," Mrs. Chen said, appearing with a garment bag. Mr. Hartwell's instructions. Inside was a stunning emerald green gown that somehow fit perfectly. Riza stared at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman looking back. "You clean up nice," Lily said from the doorway. She was wearing a beautiful silver dress, healthy and glowing. "Look at you," Riza said. "All grown up." "It's weird being healthy," Lily admitted. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong." "Nothing's going to go wrong," Riza promised. "Not anymore." At the gala, Riza felt completely out of place among the wealthy donors and society elite. But Russell found her immediately and didn't leave her side. "You look stunning," he said. "You look pretty good yourself," she replied. He was wearing a perfectly tailored tuxedo that probably cost more than she used to make in a year. They made speeches about the importance of medical research and children's health care. Lily even spoke briefly, thanking the doctors and nurses who'd saved her, and thanking Riza for never giving up. The audience gave a standing ovation. Later, as the band played and people danced, Russell took Riza's hand. "Dance with me." "I don't know how to dance like this." "Neither do I, really," he admitted. "We'll figure it out together." They swayed together on the dance floor, and Russell pulled her close. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Okay," Riza replied, her heart racing. "Over the past few months, you've become the most important person in my life besides Lily," Russell said. "You've changed everything. You've made me remember what actually matters. You've made me want to be better. And I've fallen completely in love with you." Riza stopped moving. "Russell, I know it's complicated," he continued. "I know we come from different worlds. I know I'm your boss, and that's a mess. I know you probably think I'm too old or too broken or too much baggage with Lily and the company and everything. But I needed you to know. I needed to tell you that you're extraordinary, and I love you, and I understand if you don't feel the same way." "You're an idiot," Riza said. Russell blinked. "What?" "You're an idiot if you think I don't feel the same way," she clarified. "I've been in love with you for months. I just thought there was no way you'd want someone like me." "Someone like you," Russell repeated. "You mean someone brilliant and brave and beautiful and perfect?" "I'm none of those things." "Yes, you are," he insisted. "You're all of those things. And if you'll let me, I'd like to spend the rest of my life proving it to you." Riza looked up at him with tears in her eyes. "That's a pretty big commitment." "I'm a pretty committed guy," Russell said. "Riza Coleman, will you give me a chance? Will you let me love you the way you deserve?" "Yes," Riza whispered. "Yes to all of it." Russell kissed her then, right there on the dance floor in front of Seattle's social elite, and Riza kissed him back. Somewhere in the crowd, Lily was cheering. The next year was a whirlwind. The trial of Michael Monroe became national news. He was convicted on all counts: attempted murder, conspiracy, embezzlement, and sentenced to 45 years in prison without possibility of parole. Russell and Riz's relationship went public and caused the expected scandal. A billionaire CEO dating a former maid. The tabloids had a field day. Some people were supportive, many were judgmental. Riza faced racism and classism from Russell's social circle. But Russell stood by her side through all of it, making it clear that anyone who couldn't respect Riza wasn't welcome in his life. Lily thrived. She went back to regular school. She made honor roll. She joined the science club and started campaigning for better healthcare access for low-income families. She told anyone who would listen about the importance of paying attention and asking questions, and not just accepting what doctors say without understanding why. She wanted to become a doctor herself someday, she announced, the kind who actually listens to patients. On the anniversary of the day, Lily came home from the hospital. Russell took Riza back to the Hartwell estate. He led her to the garden, where Lily was waiting with Mrs. Chen and a small group of close friends and family. "What's going on?" Riza asked. Russell got down on one knee and pulled out a ring box. "Riza Coleman," he said 1 year ago, "you walked into our lives and saved my daughter. You saved me too, though I didn't realize it at the time. You taught me that real wealth isn't money or power. It's having people you love who love you back. It's integrity and courage and kindness. It's you." He opened the box to reveal a simple, elegant diamond ring. "Will you marry me? Will you officially become part of this strange, complicated, wonderful family? Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you?" Riza was crying and laughing at the same time. "You already deserve me, you idiot." "Yes. Yes, I'll marry you." Russell slipped the ring on her finger and stood to kiss her while everyone cheered. Lily ran over and hugged them both. "Does this mean I can officially call Riza Mom?" Russell and Riza looked at each other, then at Lily. "Only if you want to," Riza said. "I really want to," Lily said. "I'd be honored," Riza replied, pulling the girl close. The wedding was 6 months later. They kept it relatively simple, despite Russell's wealth. It was held at the estate with about 100 guests, the people who actually mattered to them. Riza's brother Marcus walked her down the aisle. Mrs. Chen cried through the entire ceremony. Lily was the maid of honor and gave a speech about how Riza had saved her life twice, once by discovering the poisoning, and once by teaching her that family isn't just blood. It's people who show up and stay and fight for you even when it's hard. Russell's vows were simple. I promise to listen to you even when I don't want to hear it. I promise to trust you even when I'm scared. I promise to love you exactly as you are. I promise to make you laugh. And I promise that our family will always be built on truth and trust, and the kind of love that saves lives. Riza's vows were just as simple. I promise to keep you humble. I promise to call you out when you're wrong. I promise to fight for what matters. I promise to love Lily like she's my own. And I promise that no matter what happens, I'll never stop seeing you. Really seeing you. Not the money or the power or the image. Just you. Russell. The man I love. They exchanged rings and kissed and started their new life together. The reception was joyful and chaotic and perfect. Riz's family mixed with Russell's colleagues. The board members danced with the cleaning staff. Marcus gave a toast about how his sister had always been a fighter, how she'd worked 3 jobs to help pay for his treatment, how she'd never complained about the hand life dealt them. Now look at her, he said with tears in his eyes. Saving lives and marrying princes. She always said she'd make something of herself. I just didn't know it would be this. The crowd laughed and cheered and applauded. Detective Hernandez was there too, having become a friend through the trial. She pulled Riza aside. You know the best part of this case? She asked. Watching you refuse to stay in the box society put you in. You saw injustice and fought it. That's real heroism. Dr. Morrison approached Russell during dinner. Your daughter is a miracle, he said. But you know what the real miracle was? That you listened. Most parents in your position would have dismissed Miss Coleman immediately. You chose to hear the truth even when it was terrifying. That's what saved Lily. Russell looked across the room at Riza, who was dancing with Lily, both of them laughing. She saved us all, he said. It was exactly the kind of celebration that represented what they'd built together. A life where success meant more than wealth and family meant more than blood. As the sun set and the party continued, Russell found Riza standing alone for a moment, looking out at the garden. You okay? He asked, slipping an arm around her waist. I'm perfect, she said. I keep thinking about that first day. When I walked in here and saw Lily dying, when Mrs. Chen told me to keep my head down and do my job. And you didn't, Russell said. You never do. Riza smiled. I'm so glad I didn't. Because now this is home. You and Lily are my family, and I get to wake up every day knowing I helped save a life and found my own life in the process. Russell kissed her temple. We saved each other. They stood there together as the last light faded and the stars came out, watching their family and friends celebrate. Lily was teaching Marcus how to dance, laughing when he stepped on her toes. Mrs. Chen was arguing good-naturedly with the caterer. The garden was full of music and joy and hope. And Riza Coleman Hartwell, formerly a maid just trying to make rent, now a wife and mother and executive and hero, felt complete. She'd come to this house 6 months ago expecting to clean floors and leave. Instead, she'd saved a child, caught a killer, found love, and proved that sometimes the most extraordinary people are the ones everyone else overlooks. Sometimes a maid is just a maid, and sometimes a maid changes everything.